The Bear Essentials podcast gives older bears a place to gather for real talk regarding topics and issues that they can relate to. Here at The Bear Essentials, we aren't just having conversations. We are looking to provide actionable intelligence through real-life experience and expertise of our guests. Our mission is to build a strong community that elevates and motivates people to go beyond their limiting beliefs by helping them realize that getting older is not an excuse to hibernate on their goals, but a reason to work harder.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Charles Wallace. In today's episode, I speak with Bill Vogel, a health and longevity coach. We discuss how Bill got started, what made him want to be a health and longevity coach. We talk about his life, his unfortunate scare with cancer. We also talk about his rock bottom, what brought him to the realization that he had to make changes in his life in regards to his health. We get into the unfortunate state of overall health in America. And then we get into how Bill's programs can help people become better and healthier. So please stick around. This is definitely worth it, this is a topic that's near and dear to me, as I think a lot of us can use the extra push and the reminder. So without further ado, here's my interview with Bill Vogel. Hey, good morning, Bill. Thanks for joining today. How are you?
Terrific. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to have you. And I think today is an extremely important topic, very close to my heart, literally, and also I know to you. So could you maybe tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. What I'm doing is I am a health and wellness coach or health and longevity coach for men and women over 50 years old. And the reason I chose that number is because I'm in that group. I'm 66 years old, and I can relate to a lot of the issues that people over 50 have and things that have accumulated over time. And that age group is, basically people are looking at the second half of their life and how are they going to approach it. And, considering things like not only lifespan, how long they're going to live, but health span. So how long are they going to be healthy in that period of time? And nobody wants to spend the last 5 to 8 years of their life in a assisted living home. They want to be active, have energy, spend time with family and grandchildren, and being able to do things they want to as they move towards retirement.
Yeah, Bill. And I mean, selfishly for me, being 50, when I saw you on LinkedIn and saw what you were about, I mean, part of me wanting to interview you was as much for me as it was for my audience, which is a lot of probably older men, 40s, 50s, 60s. So I'm really glad to have you on, and I think we'll put a lot of good information out there for the audience. Bill, when I was reading about you, though, you have an interesting story, and if you could tell a little bit about that background and some of the things you've been through health-wise in your
Sure.
life and that you've overcome.
Great, be happy to. Sure. Just a little background. I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida. I grew up in New York area, lived in Connecticut and Atlanta also on my trek down south to my final resting spot here in Florida. So I'm not going anywhere else. But I was in the software business for about 35 years. So I sold high ticket software for big companies like SAP and Oracle and so forth, and got to the end of the trail there, and I just wasn't passionate about it. And it was done. I was finished. And just to go back a little bit, about 11 years ago, I was at a family function, and the photographer there basically told me, I was wearing a suit, said, "Sir, please button your suit coat." And I couldn't. I gained weight over that period of time. And he told me about 5 times in front of family, including my wife's ex-husband was in the group too. So not a good time. So that was my come to Jesus moment. And a lot of people have that where they say, okay, enough is enough. I've got to make a change. So what I did was I researched the internet, found a plan that I still use today with my clients. And I dropped 75 pounds in about 6-7 months. So that was real important. And then about 5 or 6 years later, I had another curveball thrown at me. I went in for a annual physical with my doctor, And as part of that, they do the blood tests and so forth. And it came back with a very, very high white blood cell count, about 33,000. And normally for people, it's about 5,000. So my doctor was kind of puzzled because I was in good physical condition. I wasn't sick. And he's like, something's going on here. So did some further testing. And I ended up finding out I had leukemia, which is blood cancer, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. They usually go together in tandem. And that's cancer of the lymph nodes. So that was a kind of a shock to the system for sure. And a little later, I ended up going through about 6 months of chemotherapy. And I thank God that I was in good physical shape going through it, because if you're in poor condition, who knows what'll happen to you. And what makes it interesting too is with leukemia and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, they have no idea how you get it. They still don't know, just bad luck, right? And what are you going to do? But the other part of it too, even though I went through chemo, it kind of stopped the cancer process. It could come back at any time. So tomorrow I could find out it's back, or in 10, 15 years, you don't know. But I don't think about it, dwell on it daily. I just kind of go on with my life. And if it comes back a second time, the odds of, frankly, of surviving are pretty minimal. So I made a point with my life to make sure I was in optimal physical health, that at least I could say to myself, I've done everything I could, instead of going back, gaining the weight again, and poor me baloney. And so I'd have no regrets, put it that way. So that, just staying in good physical condition is paramount in my life. So we'll talk about that a little more as we go through the podcast here. But that was, everybody gets thrown curveballs like that, whether it's for themselves, their parents, their children, loved ones, and people have to deal with stuff. There's nobody who's bulletproof, right? There's always going to be things going on, but I'm just working with it the best I can. And I feel great. I've never felt better. I've never been in better shape in my life either. And I just make sure I get 2 blood tests a year to make sure that white blood cell count number is down on the 4,000 or 5,000 level. And that just, when I get the results, I feel good, So basically, just from there quickly, my wife told me, Bill, you're so interested in health and wellness. I've been listening to podcasts, reading books for about 11 years or so. And she says, why don't you become a health coach? Because you love this stuff, you're passionate about it. And she said, Bill, you can make a difference in people's lives. And that's my passion now, is to do this, and one at a time to make a difference, and, help people the way I helped myself, to get them back to optimal health and good metabolic health too. So that's my thing. And I'm glad I chose this profession.
Bill, sorry you went through it. Congrats though, because I can tell, and I spoke to you a little bit the other day before we did this, and I know the one thing that struck me even the other day when I got off the phone, and knowing, you're in your mid 60s, myself just turning 50. I will say this to you. I was in the car. When I got out of the car, I literally, in my mind, I went, damn, I hope I have what he has as far as energy when I'm in my mid 60s, because it was very impressive. And it just, it actually, that day, I believe it or not, it gave me a boost too. I got out. I was more, as you could probably tell, I sent you a message pretty quickly, said, hey, let's do this, Bill. Let's get on here. So congrats on you. I appreciate it. And, for the audience listening, regardless of what time you're listening, Bill and I are on here bright and early. And I have a hunch that Bill's probably already got a pretty solid workout in before he even jumped on here with me today.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those nutty people. I get up at 5 every day. And if I don't do it in the morning and I say, hey, I'll do it at lunchtime, the odds of doing it are pretty slim. I'll find up with a reason not to do it. So the first thing I get up, I have my routine, and I go, I'm very fortunate. I live in a high rise in St. Pete, and we have a gym and a pool and a sauna on 2 floors up. So no excuse. I can't say, oh, it's raining out, I can't go. I just do it. I'm on autopilot, basically. And that's one of the things I incorporate to my clients too, is to develop new habits, and, small, reasonable steps to get them gradually over time to develop these new habits. So it becomes an autopilot. Like you don't think about it. You just do. It's like when you first learned how to ride a bike or drive a car, you think brake, gas pedal, steering wheel, mirrors, what do I do? And then you get to the point where you don't even think about it. You just go out and do it. And I try to instill that with my clients.
Yeah, I agree, Bill. I think that's really, really important. And, I totally understand the reason why you're doing this. I mean, I think that's great. You want to try to make a difference in people's lives. And I wanted to get into this. I think the reason people like you are needed in order to make that difference in people's lives, and you touched on it a little bit about your health span versus your lifespan. Let's talk a little bit about, and you and I, we touched on it briefly the other day, but I don't think people really fully understand how bad it is right now in our country. I mean, yeah. I think our health overall, I think that's I'm going to say it. I think that's the pandemic. It's the pandemic that nobody really talks about. And before I let you go, the one other thing I want to say is, and I get your thoughts on this, I think it's I hate to say it like this, the acceptable pandemic. People accept it and it's okay. I was there, right, Bill? Like you, I was overweight and, I got, hey, you look fine. You're big bone. You carry your weight well. It's all that BS. So let's talk. Could you talk a little bit about that and the state of the country and how bad our health is?
Yeah. I read lots of studies and I, again, listen to lots of yours. And I get a lot of great information from doctors and scientists out there. And we are to the point, the CDC has said that, and some of your listeners might know this, but 75% of Americans are either overweight or obese. We're to that point. And I think if you go back in time, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but it really started back in the 1950s. And what happened was then President Eisenhower had a heart attack. And there was a gentleman, a doctor up in Minnesota named Ansel Keys. And he decided he was going to go out and prove that saturated fat is the reason that he had that heart attack, which is amazing when you look at President Eisenhower. He ate a diet then that included meat and vegetables and starches, wasn't very active, and Ansel Keys always forgets to point out that President Eisenhower smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day. So, but he blamed basically really came down to was eating meat. And he proceeded to do a global study to prove his point, which is a big problem. Scientists, doctors go out to prove their point, and they'll do shortcuts, skip around here and there to make sure there's an emphasis on what they're trying to do. And basically, he did it's a famous study called the 7 countries study, and to prove prove that saturated fat causes heart issues, heart attacks. But he also left out too. He actually did a study of 23 countries, but he cherry picked 7, and including amazingly Crete. He went there and he saw how there's no heart disease, and he says, well, they're not eating meat, but he didn't point out that it was Lent, and the Greek Orthodox people don't eat meat during Lent, and didn't point that out. But he excluded countries that didn't agree with what he was trying to prove. Like France, for example, is one of the highest per capita consumers of meat, red meat, and they also have the lowest heart attack rate, one of the lowest in the world. But he excluded France and other countries that didn't meet his conclusion that he wanted to get. So from that point on, what happened, Charles, is this resulted in the famous food pyramid. The standard American diet, of course, abbreviated SAD, which it should be. And what it included was a real high consumption of grains, 7 to 13 servings of grains, which includes processed food. And I think processed food is really the downfall of our country. Packaged foods, canned, jarred, and so forth, just eating things that go through a various long process to be completed. So that, that in addition to, in about the 1980s, we started the low fat, no fat phenomena. And, which most people think, hey, I'm not taking in fat, so there isn't going to be any fat in my body. And basically that's not accurate, been proven in various studies. So when you're eating no fat, low fat, they have to replace the fat with something. And what they do is they replace it with sugar. So sugar and processed foods to me are the evil part of our lives. And I think that's resulted in tremendous weight gain for people over time who are trying to do the right thing, eating what the government says we should be eating and gaining weight. And therefore we're at that 75% number in the country. So really, just taking their food consumption and focusing on bad stuff instead of the good stuff. And one of the things my mantra is eat real whole foods. So eat foods with one ingredient. So if you're buying a steak, it's a steak. If you're buying broccoli, it's broccoli. You're eating an apple, it's an apple. No chemical ingredients at all. So, if you stay with, in my opinion, if you stay with that, you'll be eating the right things and you'll be doing the best you can for your optimal health.
Bill, I couldn't agree more. I mean, myself, I won't get, real deep into it, but I lost a lot of weight too. And it had to do a lot with that. And, it was, in line with what you said, I really took to this. I saw a thing before where somebody said, just focus on shopping the edges of the supermarket, the edge aisles, right?
Exactly right.
And, my wife and I now, and, I want to give her a quick plug, but my wife is now like 3 pounds away from having lost 100 pounds in 10 months.
Wow. Fabulous.
Yeah. And Bill, honest to God, like what you're saying, right? No shortcuts, right? We're religiously 2 to 3 times a week at the supermarket buying, healthy foods, working out, things like that, trying to do it the right way. But when I hear that number, 75%, it boggles my mind. And I think the other thing is what I had said earlier is how people, they make it acceptable, right? And I think, and I want you to get into this a little bit too, I think the other issue is the fad diet, right? Like seems like everybody has this new diet that here, this will help you. And I think what people miss is that everybody's so overweight when they start these fad diets. By default, you're cutting out, like you said, you cut out some sugar or some things like that. A lot of that's water weight, a lot of that's going to come off. But how do you feel about how I feel like we're being thrown a bill of goods, so to speak, right? As far as these fad diets, like, could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. And just to let you know, in the particular lifestyle or diet that I work with my clients, it's kind of a combination of, I'm sure your listeners know, paleo or keto. So basically trying to minimize the carbs. And what's happened over time is, in your 20s and your 30s, you're pretty bulletproof, right? You can do just about anything. And magically, when you get to your 40s, everything hits the fan. And just to give you a quick example, at my 10th, 20th, and 10th, 20th, and 30th reunions at high school, at 28, 10 years, everybody looked fabulous. 38, they still look fabulous. And then 48, I'm like, I go there and I'm like, who are these people? I mean, everybody, I'd say 90% added 20 to 70 pounds. And it just, our metabolism changes, our whole, being a human being changes in their 40s. And all of a sudden the weight you can't keep doing the same thing you were doing in your 20s and 30s, and you hit your 40s and, everything hits the fan. And also too, mixed in with that is, when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you're raising a family, you're working hard, and really your health as a father or mother are being neglected. Your focus is on your children, developing, growing wealth and so forth. And your health really goes to hell in a handbasket. And that's what happens with most people. It's just a natural thing. And, when I talk to clients over 50, they're at that point where they financially good, kids are maybe in college or out of college on their own lives. And now they look at themselves and they're like, holy cow, what happened? And it's sometimes it takes, like with me with a photographer, a come to Jesus meeting, or it's a doctor's appointment where they say, wow, you have heart issues, or you're pre-type 2 diabetic. Things like that's their come to Jesus moment where, hey, I gotta do something. And most of the phone calls I get from prospects who become clients, that happens. There's something that life-changing moment, or somebody, they get into an embarrassing situation or something, or their spouse says something, hey, what's going on? Or you can't walk for any long distance anymore. I mean, simple stuff you could do up to that point in your life, and it's time to make a change. And some people really, like, I have friends and relatives who are definitely overweight and obese, and they're just like, I'm good. No, you're not good, and it's like, you got to do something to change your life, change your habits, change your lifestyle, or you're going to end up a type 2 diabetic and on insulin and so forth. And it's just, people just think it's not going to happen to me, so.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think for all of us, like, you had your come to Jesus meeting, so to speak. I had mine. I think unfortunately, a lot of times it takes that. I definitely want to now get into talking about the coaching and how you help people.
Yep.
Let's just take a quick break, though.
Sure.
Quick message here from NGBN TV.
Hey,
we'll
Charles,
be right back.
I just wanted to welcome you and all the Bare Essential listeners and watchers to NGBN.TV. My name is Chris Rubio, and I'm the host of The Rubio Method. We are a show about men's mental health that comes out every other Wednesday. Our latest episode just came out today, June 22nd. Then we'll have one in another 2 weeks. We already have 9 episodes out with myself and my co-host, Nick Monahan. We navigate the zone of men turning into middle age and going through health crises, whether it's mental, physical, and we have a good time while doing it. We tell a lot of funny stories. We have great interviews and guests, and it's just an all-around good time for about a half an hour to 45 minutes. So make sure you check out the Rubio Method as well on NGBN.TV, YouTube, Spotify, Google, and Amazon podcasts. And once again, from the Rubio Method to the Bare Essentials, welcome to NGBN.TV.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Bill Vogel. Bill, we talked a lot about your story, talked a little bit about what, we consider the health crisis in America. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about, how you're helping that and how you're helping your clients. So how does that work? Like, somebody has that moment where they're like, I need to make a change, and
Yep.
they reach out to you. So what's that like, and what happens?
Yeah. Typically the first step of the process is I go over the program with each prospect and to see if that's something they think they can do. And the first thing I recommend highly is that they get a full blood test. We really want to see what we're starting, and the blood tells a lot of things. That's how I found out I had cancer. I would have gone on a few more years not knowing. Unless that blood test came up. So the blood tells a lot. And so we talk about that. So they'll visit with their doctor, go over areas of concern. I also work with them. They fill out a survey. So I really want to know in depth. It's about 5 or 6 pages, but I want to know in depth about their lifestyle, what they're eating. Are they exercising? Are they taking supplements? Everything from A to Z. And that's really our starting point. And what I've learned over the years of doing this is that you can't throw the kitchen sink at people. They've had it's taken them maybe 20 years to get to where they are. This is not a 30, 60 day magical plan. So what I do with them is we start with slow, reasonable steps. And an example might be, every client's different. So I develop a personal plan for them, but it could be as simple as in week 1, do not eat after dinner. So the kitchen's closed at 6 o'clock, no food. And one of the reason for that is Americans really, we have a culture of eating from the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed. It's nonstop. And a lot of the food companies, they're great marketers, and they developed all these snacks. So you're eating mid-morning, afternoon, night before you go to bed, and that just accumulates over time. So we start with these small, reasonable steps. Again, it could be not eating after dinner. It could be let's go out with your husband or wife and take a walk, take a 20-minute walk after dinner. So I mean, it gets that simple. And then what we do is we build on it every week. So I have weekly meetings with my clients, 30 minutes on a Zoom. So I have nationwide client base, California, Maine, Tennessee, all over the place. So that 30-minute call really is what very important for me, because I hold them accountable. That's the main thing. I don't sell smoothie powders or supplements or exercise machines or anything. What I sell is accountability. So they know every Tuesday morning at 9:00, I'm talking to Bill, and I got to make sure I'm on task with Bill. So, and we go over all the issues from the prior week, what we're going to try to accomplish for the next week, and we build upon that. So it could be as little as 4 months to be working with people, because again, it's taken them years to get to where they are. And I have some clients who have never left, a year and a half. They just need me on the kind of their Jiminy Cricket on their shoulder, and they know I'm there. Because it's really, Charles, it's very difficult. It takes a certain type of person to be able to do this on your own. It's very difficult. You can slip and hey, no one's watching me. No, it's up to me. And before you know it, they're back to where they were before. So again, accountability is the main thing. That's why people have coaches. Everybody has coaches. Michael Jordan had coaches when he was in his prime. Tiger Woods still has coaches. So you need another perspective. You need someone there to push you to fine tune, your life and your lifestyle. And that's what I sell, is that accountability. If it wasn't for me, for a lot of my clients, they'd be, falling off the wagon pretty quick.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I can, I'm totally transparent. It's been easier for me over these last 10 months to a year, now that my wife has been doing this also, right? So yeah. The fact now that we have each other kind of leaning on, because I even noticed myself, there's times lately where if I feel like I'm slipping up, and then I'll see what she's doing, and vice versa. So yeah. I think that's really, really important. And Bill, I think the other thing that amazes me too is that I agree with you. I think we need coaches. And, me personally, I've been working with my personal trainer, who's now my friend. When I started my journey 3 years ago, I'm still going to him 3 days a week. And, I've had people say to me, you should know now, why do you still go there? Exactly what you said. Number one, I don't want to figure it out on my own, right? I like to go there and he says, here you go. Here's the workout today. I know that if I go there, if I'm not pushing it, he'll push me. So I think it's worth it. And I tell people even about that, people like you, I'm sure you hear it, cost, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But things that you and I talked about, if you just sit down, write it out, what you're spending your money on, and you look at that and say, is this good for my health? These things that I'm spending my money on, I know people can find it. It's just, I think it's just a matter of sitting down, writing it out and figuring it out, because you need it.
Charles, it's really, it's your life, right? And, for most people, getting to the end like that, I wish I would have done this. The regrets all over the place, but that's kind of how it works for most people. But I did want to tell you a little bit about the program itself and the components of it. It's not just nutrition, but it's also things like movement, exercise. And, a lot of the people I'm working with are in their 60s. They're not going to go to the gym 5 hours a week. Not going to happen. So for the movement component, sometimes it's just getting out and walking a couple times a day. Maybe it's if they're home, resistance bands or dumbbells or whatever that happens to be, just getting them moving, because we're sitting on our butts all day, sitting in front of a computer. And they're saying, I'm sure you've heard, sitting is the new cigarettes. People just are just basically not doing anything, and getting them up and moving every couple hours, take a walk, do things like that. But also another component I use with my clients is eating windows, I call it, but it's really fasting. So periods of time where you're not eating. Of course, you're not eating during sleep, 7-8 hours a night, But what I try to do is with not eating after dinner, you get 4 or 5 hours there. So trying to get people to not eat for 12 to 16 hours a day, pushing back breakfast maybe to 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So that's an important component. Supplements also, and that basically is reflected on their blood test, what they need in terms of could be things like vitamin D, for example. Most Americans are very deficient in vitamin D. So vitamin D basically is coming from sunlight, getting out there, and possibly taking supplements to get that up. But interesting fact on vitamin D, Charles, and maybe your viewers don't know this, or listeners, that not one person in the United States died from COVID who had a vitamin D level over 50. That's amazing stuff. So, I mean, all these little things that, people could easily add to their life, getting out in fresh air and the sunlight and so forth. But also just a couple other things. Sleep management is very important. Some people are hard driving people will say, I'll sleep when I die type of thing, right? But sleep is critical, and it can ruin your day. When they have terrorists in prison, they're trying to get information out of them. It's sleep deprivation that gets them just to lose it. And over time, that's an important component, getting the proper sleep every day, because it can really absolutely ruin your day, suck out the energy out of your body. And also hydration and breathing are two other components. So all the components I mentioned are really interconnected. So it's not just one magic bullet that takes care of everything. And just to bring up another point too, when people are going in to see their doctors, unfortunately, doctors do the best they can. If they're in a medical system, they get 10 minutes with the client and with their patient. And I call it diagnose and adios. I have a problem with this or that. So instead of getting to the root cause, which is where like nutrition, exercise, et cetera, they have a prescription pad and they give them a pill. And a lot of people are lazy. And if I can take a pill instead of actually eating better food, getting out and moving, they'll do that every day. And before you know it, these people have 10, 15 prescriptions. And it's, you get a prescription, there's side effects. So here's another pill to take care of that side effect. And it goes on and on like that. And it's, unfortunately, these doctors do the best they can. They want you to be as healthy as possible. But, people try to look for the easy way out sometimes.
Yeah, that's a shame. And Bill, what you said about the medication. I mean, I was guilty of that. Totally admit it. And, it's funny. People ask me now, like, yeah, I did lose a lot of weight, right? But one of the things I'm even more proud of than that is I'm medication free now.
That's fantastic.
No medications. Like, besides some of the supplements you talked about, and that stat you mentioned about the vitamin D, 100%. I was so into that, especially because of like what I do for a living in healthcare analytics, right? So I was definitely into that. And as you were talking about that, I'm thinking of my supplements upstairs, my vitamin D, little things like that. Bill, I got to tell you, in going through this, what I like about this, and I really hope people do seek you out, is that there's a practicality to it that I think also people need simple. They need accountability, right? But I think the more it's feasible in their minds, it makes them more willing to accept it and more willing to keep up with it.
And I'm on the program I work with my clients where there's no calorie counting. So you just eat real whole foods. And, people have gone on yo-yo diets. I'm one of those. I did before I started, lost all that weight. Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem. And, you will lose weight on all those, no doubt. The problem is keeping it up over time. What happens is people get to a point and I can't keep counting calories or points on Weight Watchers. And it's like, this is driving me crazy. I want something simple where I just don't have to think about it or measure. And that's really resonates with my clients, is just keep it simple. It could be, what should I be eating? What should I not be eating? When should I be eating? And that really resonates with the clients. And also too, not asking them to hey, you got to go to a personal trainer for 5 hours a week to do this. And I tell my clients that if you're overweight, you can't out exercise a poor diet. So well, my wife and I years ago, we did CrossFit, which is just brutal. We did it for 5 years. And my goal was to lose weight. And this is before I found my plan here. But I actually gained weight on CrossFit. And I was pretty miserable, aches and pains. I mean, they beat the heck out of you. But so really, nutrition is the core of everything in our lives. Nutrition is medicine. And if you start with that basic component, then you can build upon that.
That great line, Bill. You had to call, honestly, as we do the podcast, as I do these podcasts, I always, people say things, I go, oh, there's a good soundbite. You've had about 3 or 4 of them. So thank you. In my mind, I'm like, and that is another one. The nutrition is medicine. Bill, one thing I wanted to say to what you just mentioned, those diets like the Jenny Craig nutrition, nothing against them, right? Whatever. It is what it is. But what amazes me, and people don't think about this?
What's that?
They love it where they say, oh, follow this diet. We give you your food. You don't even have to work out. Well, if you look into it, you know why you're not you know why they don't want you to work out. And here's why. Because losing weight ultimately boils down to calorie deficit, right?
Yeah.
They're not giving you enough calories for you to work out. So you basically, you're going to lose weight just by the amount of calories that you're not taking in.
Right. Yeah. And, you see the Biggest Loser of those types of shows, and they just absolutely torture those people. I mean, deprive them of food, exercise them to death. And I think I read somewhere like one person in all the years of that has maintained their lower weight. Everybody just balloons up because it's not sustainable. And that's why with the program I have here, it's sustainable. I've been doing it for 11 years. My wife does it. Can I give you a quick client example?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I mentioned it to you the other day, but my favorite mother-in-law is 77 the other day. But a year ago, she was, and she doesn't mind me talking about her on air here, but she was obese, clinically obese, had a walker, miserable, depressed, and she was one fall away from breaking her hip and dying, frankly. And so I told my wife, I said, we got to do something with your mom here because she's not going to last. And so I said, let's bring your mom into our home for a month. And so she lived with us. And I got her on the straight and narrow in terms of nutrition, movement, and all that. And she really took to it well. She found on the nutrition part, she was satiated, so she wasn't starving in between meals during the day. When she first came, Charles, we're in a high rise. She could barely walk with a walker from the end unit we're in our building to the elevator and back, and would be exhausted. And like, this is not good. So anyway, got her on. I shopped food for her. I cooked food for her. We walked every day. And now she's lost about 60 pounds. And my wife said I've never seen my mother so happy in her life. So, and she's 77 years old. So regardless of age, there's no point in your life where I'm too old, I can't do it. I mean, even if that's 50 or 60 or 70s. But I mean, she's off half of our medications now. I mean, just a happy camper. And that is, from my point of view, I just love seeing that in people. They're just changing their lives. And it's not rocket science here. It's not complex. But just turning people around, a total 180 for where she used to be. Now she's going to have, great years of health span's going to be increased, and she's going to be on this for the rest of her life. And here's a 76-year-old woman who my wife still says, I can't believe you turned her around. But I didn't turn her around. I hold her accountable, but she's responsible. She could do whatever she wants when I'm not with her. But she's kept it up, and it's so again, a lot. Her problem started when she had 4 kids and 4 pregnancies, and the weight went on and never came off the rest of her life. So, but I have lots of examples of clients 50, 60 pounds moving, sizes and clothes down, and really when you look at it, what do most people say? I want to look good in my clothes, men and women. of any age. And, the belt notch and all that, where am I on my belt notch? That's how I kind of gauge where I am. And I want to make sure it's not snug. But a couple other points I wrote some notes down that really about, going back to the state of America. The CDC actually says that 30% of adults in America are walking around and they have type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetic, and they don't know it because they don't go get checked. And one of the ways is hemoglobin A1C is the magic number. I'm sure some of you and your listeners will know that. And then the magic number is 5.7. If you're over that, you're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic. So that's an important blood marker. It really tells you a lot. And most people don't get it, and they have no idea. So therefore, the 30% number. And, really the cost in America for healthcare is, I don't know what we're going to do going forward here. It's great. I mean, the obesity, they're expecting 30 to 40% of Americans to be obese by 2030. So we got to do something. And again, that's to your point. I think that's the real pandemic. And when you look at the last couple of years of the stuff we had to go through with COVID, this again, the CDC number, 94% of Americans who died with COVID had 3 comorbidities at least. And the top 3 were obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. So what COVID, the virus did was they were low hanging fruit, and the virus swooped in and they were gone. So the average American who tries to stay in good shape, yes, they may get sick from COVID, but the odds of dying are minuscule, but you gotta be in good health. And I hope we learn that from it. You don't see it on the media, Charles. Like, hey, guys, wake up. We got to get in shape here. There'll be more viruses down the road, and one's going to hit you. And if you're not in optimal shape, God love you. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. That's the one thing I will say that it does bother me in this way. I think it's almost like a test in school, right? Teacher gives you the answer, but you choose to put a wrong answer in. It's like we all, as a society, most of us know the answer. We know the things we should be doing. It's a matter of doing it. But that being said, I feel like, and I'm maybe, I don't, whatever, I'll say it this way. I feel like an opportunity was missed in this regard. The way people reacted to COVID, as we all saw, I think it would have been a really good opportunity for people to come out and push people towards a healthier lifestyle, because, you've seen people are willing to do whatever, right? It scared a lot of people. People were willing to do whatever, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like, and people would have still had to do it, but I do think we missed a chance to make it a rallying point for better health in this country. And I don't know. I feel like there's not enough people like you out there really talking about it. I think too many people are willing to, take that pill to continue doing what they want to do, unfortunately. But it just, it scares me. And, I said this the other day to somebody, Bill, it's funny. One of the things with me, with my weight myself, I look back and I think I was more ashamed about the example I was setting for my kids. Right. And thank God despite my example, didn't follow. Right. But I just, I see a lot of young people too out there that, like Bill, thinking about when you were growing up, when I was growing up, it's so different now, with technology, with video games. We're raising a society of kids that are doomed for poor health.
Yeah. Right? I mean, they're sedentary. You want to look at something interesting. If you kept any of your pictures from like 3rd, 4th grade, look at the class pictures. I mean, I'm a little older than you are, but if you go back and look at it, I looked at one the other day. There was one kid out of 25 that was chubby. Everybody else was slender. And you look at it now, and over half the kids early in their life are overweight. I mean, a real good indicator, Charles, is to go back and look at, if you want to look at pictures from the 1960s, large group pictures of like maybe it's the rocket launches for Apollo, and you look at everybody, and everybody looks slender. you have to look hard to find one person who's overweight. And now it's the exact opposite. It's crazy stuff. And even, kids are just sedentary, video games. And part of it's our society where I'm sure when you were a kid, my parents would say, when the street lights come on back in. And they don't know what I was doing. We're playing ball, kickball, tag, hide and seek or whatever. And now parents are paranoid. There's like someone ready to grab my kid on the street. So kids are not, they're not promoting activity and exercise for their kids to get out and do something. My father would be like, turn the TV off and go outside. I don't care what you do. Find some kids, do something. We don't do that anymore. And that's part. And the video games are very enticing, and social media and all this. And it's just, your thumbs are in good shape, but the rest of your body is not even close. So it's an epidemic, not only for 40s through the rest of your life, but children. I mean, children now are getting type 2 diabetes in their teens. And type 2 diabetes is not it's a lifestyle disease. Type 1 diabetes, you're born with it, and needing insulin, and there's nothing you can do about it. But type 2 is lifestyle. And, it's crazy. It's crazy for sure.
It really is, Bill. Well, listen, I really appreciate what you're doing, because I think it's needed. I want to give you an opportunity now. How can people find you, get a hold of you? And I'll add links in the show notes too for when it airs, but give you a chance to plug what you're doing.
Sure. My website is My50 Plus Health, 50 My50 Plus Health. And again, I also do a corporate, if there's any executives out there listening, if they're like, wow, I really could use this for my company. Today, there's people are worried about losing employees, good employees. And one of the ways you can do that is add benefits like a health and wellness program that people can get involved with. And so that's another thing I offer. What's real important is knowledge. Really, people don't know where to start, and that's why they hire coaches like myself. There's one particular book I recommend, and it's not my book. I haven't written a book, but one of my good friends in St. Pete here is a heart surgeon. His name is Phil Ovadia, but he has a book called, and it's a great name, Stay Off My Operating Table. He wants people to not be on his operating table and take care of themselves. Phil himself was morbidly obese as a heart surgeon, and he's telling people what to do. And he's like, this isn't going to work. They're looking at me, do as I say, not as I do. So he lost 130 pounds, and he wrote this book. And Stay Off My Operating Table. It's on Amazon. It's one of the best sellers in health and wellness. But if you want some core background and I follow the program, I was doing this program before I met Phil, but we're in sync, and I'm actually starting to work with him in his telemedicine business. So I'm going to be one of his coaches. But just for anybody out there, first thing you need to do is, as I mentioned, is go out and get a blood test. Really see where you are, what the baseline is, because you're going to find things maybe and that could change your life. And it's a kind of an early warning system to what you're doing. And then, build upon there. But one thing I had mentioned to you when I sent over some notes is that for anybody who's a listener of your podcast who's interested in checking it out, I do a 20-minute free consultation. So again, on my 50 Plus Health, you can actually go on there, there's Calendly link, and you can set up a time and learn a little bit more about what I do and how the program works and see if it's right for you. But also for any listener here, I'm offering $100 off the first month for anybody who's interested in going on the program. And again, it could be as little as 4 months to really put in the principles and the habits that you need to do. Some people stay on forever because they just need me to keep it real and everything. But in 4 months, it's a minimal investment of your dollars to get started on this and get the core points of the program. So, it's so crucial for people. You don't want to be spending the last days of your life in poor health. And it's, when you see parents and grandparents suffering, that could be you if you decide to do nothing. So just a point of advice there to people.
Yeah, Bill, that's powerful stuff, because that's exactly, my thoughts exactly. I want to try, for God willing, as long as I have, I want to be doing things that, I enjoy, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be an added responsibility to my children either. So I want to really make sure that I'm living with them and they're not having to take care of me. You know what I mean? Like, I want to just be a part of their life. I don't want to actually be a extra responsibility for them in their life. So
the last thing I want to say too is, you've heard this before, but nobody in their deathbed said, wow, I wish I would have worked harder, spent more time, and they really, the thing is, you got to look at, in this case, look at number one. You got to be healthy if you want to be out there for your family and your spouse and so forth. And if you don't take care of that, a lot of the burden is going to be on your family, like just what you're saying, Charles. And I don't want that to happen to me. I want to take care of myself and, take it from there.
Well, Bill, you're doing a great job with that. Honestly, God bless you not that you're old, but you got 15, 16 years on me. And, you're a guy I'm looking at now going, okay, there's a role model to strive for. So thank you for that. The joke with my wife is I want to live to 120. So that's my goal. And it's maybe crazy, but if you do the right things, you increase your percentage chance of that happening. So who knows, with medicine changing and all this and people getting smarter about nutrition and movement, maybe it's possible, but that's my goal, 120. So maybe I'm crazy. So, hey, if you get there and I get to, over 100, maybe we'll do episode part 2 of it.
Yes. Episode 3,500 of your podcast. Yeah.
So, well, Bill, thanks for taking time today. I will add all this information in the show notes, and thank you for the generous offer. I like to say this with a lot of my podcasts, but, I try to bring guests on that are the type of people that we really should be seeking out to help us in that journey to become the best versions of ourselves. So Bill is definitely one of those people. So look to check Bill out. Bill, thank you again. Good luck with everything.
Thanks.
Talk soon, okay?
Yeah, it was fun and pleasure speaking to you today, Charles.
Right, this has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.